Hello everyone, welcome to my latest CB radio show. It's me, 104, and in this week's episode we'll be looking at a few things. The D.I.Y project will be an enhancement on the voltmeter that I did. So I'll leave some links in the description so you can jump straight through to these things if you so wish. But this one's going to measure the amps as well as the volts, so that's that. I've also got an unboxing and a few highlights of a tune-up I did on a radio that's currently censored behind that sheet of paper up there, so watch out for that. In addition to that, I've got a few shout outs. The Crapsman radio up there has actually been in use on one of the nets, so it'll be a bit of an update on how the nets are starting to recover, at least within my earshot, so that'll be coming up. Obviously as well, a few shout outs and general sort of news and things like that, so tag along if you so wish. Okay folks, thanks for sticking with it. So first up, news is I've negotiated some more shelf space from my missus, so her yarn has been moved elsewhere, and now I've got more room on this one. This is sort of techie stuff, and this is going to be turned into the sort of display things. Work in progress. I've still got radios to bring back, so instead of this here, that's going to be my CBHQ from Harrier CBHQ, so that'll be going there. We've got the Murphy I did up a couple of months back, and various radios you've seen before. Up there is actually a Quasar, which is the one with the marine channels in it as well, receive only. In the corner there is the Harvard H404, and underneath is a Royce 619 AM radio. So that one there, I actually imported that duty paid from the USA. Doesn't get used, it's just for display purposes only, because I just love how the two radios match. Then in the corner we got the censored stack, because the one at the bottom is the radio that's coming up in a moment in the unboxing, and a few highlights of the tune-up. The type of radio has been done loads of times, so even by myself, so it's just some highlights of the tune-up. And then what happened is some of this stuff will spread around the back of there. Bagpuss is now with me here. Hopefully he doesn't drop his fag ash on the back of my neck. But there we go. This will stay as the sort of techie side of things. Let's fire that up because it looks sexy. Look at that. What's not to like? So there we go. That's all beautiful. So that is the update from here. Studio number 2, I think it is. I think studio 1 is the shed, but there we go. Anyway, let's crack on with some news. And as far as the nets are concerned, in this area, I've now been on 2 nets in a couple of days, and I'm glad to see they've recovered. I'll give you I actually took the trouble of writing out the sheet. So it's that, if you want to pause the video, that's the nets I've been on. Okay. So I put channels down this time, because when I put frequencies down, people accuse me of being a wannabe ham. So if you want to know the frequencies of channel 27 and channel 30, I'll leave a link in below to an external site where you can see how those equate to megahertz, so to speak. But there we go. Anyway, I'll read them out. Now, Homesteaders, that was one of the original nets that sort of kept my interest going in the radio. So I called into that on Wednesday, got a few contacts from the shed, so that was brilliant. Spoke to a few people I'd not spoken to in ages. And then last night I gave the Crapsman radio up there an airing on the channel 30 net. That's the one with guys like Brian Trailer Maker, Ian 252 and Alan Pacman, so that was jolly good as well. Nice to catch up with those guys. So I had to call in late. I will have to call in late to that one, because Saturday night tends to be our late night shopping night. So there we go. Anyway, brilliant. So nets are recovering, and if there's any footage worth putting up, I'll include a little snippet of net footage towards the end of the video of that net with the Crapsman 2 in use. So there we go. Anyway, let's see what else we got on the list. So yes, indeed, I'm going to put a pinned comment, and probably in the description as well, of how you can sort of hop to the various points in this video, just in case it's starting to get a bit long, or there's elements you're not interested in. So I think we'll kick it off next with the unboxing of the new censored radio, and then we'll kick off with it's more of an update rather than a complete how-to create this little box of tricks here which will measure the voltage of your power supply and how many amps have been drawn from it. So even more useful than the other project I did a couple of weeks ago, the D.I.Y voltmeter. Very similar, but a few more wires to muck around with. So there we go. Anyway, what else have we got going on? Oh, something exciting's happening there. Right, yeah, shout outs. Now, there's a guy over, I like watching the American CB videos, and there's a guy over in the States, and he's just started up a new channel. I think he's got quite a big channel anyway, but he's just started up a new one, and it's 390 Wagon Master, and he's doing a load of unboxings at the moment and pulling out some really old American CB radios, and I love those sort of radios, the sort of ones with the wood veneer finish and all this type of stuff. And I have to say, I listened to some audio. It's not on YouTube. There is some old CB audio on YouTube, but this was another level. The quality, it was late 1960s. I could tell that because of the verbosity was very much of its time. But the quality of the valve radios they were using, the AM quality on those valve radios was incredible. And I really enjoyed listening to it because it was very much of its time. It was very polite, but it was all the sort of, hey man, it's groovy, man, it's beautiful, that type of thing, if you know what I mean. And brilliant. I don't know where it is. It's out there, or at least it was out there on the internet. And it sort of stimulated my interest. Really, that was right back in the day, before I came back onto the air properly. And I used to listen to, I think his name was Scott, unfortunately I believe he's RIP now, 4040, you know, 4040 in the dock of the bay over in San Francisco Bay. And I used to he just used to have a video gate, I think they call it, of the meter needle going across, and I was just fascinated by that. And again, obviously he was of a certain age, similar to me. I don't think he was all that old actually, but it was of that sort of era where you've got that sort of San Francisco sort of verbosity of the 1960s, and I did enjoy his video gates. So there we go. So another inspiration for me. So it's nice. I do like listening to the stuff from the USA. So happy days, and do check out his channel as well, because I say he's just kicking it off from his split off from his main channel, I believe. So there we go. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much it at the moment from me as far as news updates are concerned. So we'll call it a little bit of an ad break now, and we'll catch you afterwards with the unboxing of the new censored vintage radio. Okay, we've got an unboxing. The latest bit of second-hand stuff has arrived. I've had it for a few days, but I've kept it back just so you folks can see what the latest piece of, well, we'll find out, is that's landed here. Down to your bubble wrap. That's, I'll keep unrolling, and there'll be nothing inside. Now, do you get a clue from the type of connector there? It's a radio, and it's got its thumb screws, and it is a Mustang CB2000. So I've got a bit of a thing for this Amstrad type, what they call the budget Cybernet board inside, and this is another one. So this is going to be pretty much identical to the Amstrads and the, well, in particular the Transcom GBX2000, and it is a Japanese made one as well. I don't know if these ever were anything but Japanese made, but there we go. And on the face of it, odd thumb screws. It looks alright. It's not fantastic cosmetically, but I think that'll clean up a bit. But like I say before, I like these radios that have seen some use, seen some action, bit of history. On the face of it, it's all there. So let's get this one on the test kit and see if it's actually working. Okay, you'll see it as I see it. So this will be a Cybernet wired microphone. I always label up the microphones actually, so that was that sort of bespoke one I did for the Midland 77 M65, and this Transcom one here is labelled on the top Cybernet OK, because I've actually tested the microphone. So let's stick that in now. I should have one of those plugs on my multi-lead here. Let's have a look. Yeah, so what I try and do is make up like a multi-lead of different plugs, and one happens to be the same as that. So there we go. Right, let's get that in now. Okay, let's fire up. Boom goes the big Watson power supply. Right then, here it goes. Well, it's come on channel 36, but I'd moved that anyway. All the segments work, which is lush. Dirty controls, but that's nothing to worry about. PA, channel 9, identical controls to the Transcom. I think I could just interchange the faceplates actually. Okay, let's see if we've got any transmit. Let's go in on those meters. Bit of the old zoomage. Okay, let's have a look. And we do. We do. I can't conceal my excitement. And it's doing an indicated 4 watts. So what's not to like? On the meter down the bottom, just over 4 watts. So to me that shows it's fairly clean on harmonics. Let's drop down to the TriStar. And 27791. 27991, top of the shop, and 27601 down on channel 1. So that's all pretty hunky-dory. Let's just have a quick look what it's saying on power on this rather happy meter down the bottom, and that is saying, oh, I can't see, 5 watts that's showing on there. So there we go. Anyway, brilliant. So I'm going to whip this apart now to make sure there's nothing nasty inside, and we'll take it from there. So latest acquisition, it's looking promising. Let's see if that meter moves over. Yeah, it does, and it's got a Roger bleep as well, so what's not to like? Right, should we see if it's got its resistor, its ballast resistor, yay or nay? Dirty, but okay. Nasty under there. Let's see the big reveal. And we have good news. So it's always a shame to see when that's missing, because you know somebody's been inside trying to eke out some extra watts from the device. So there we go. So I will do an inspection on that, see if there's any capacitors that look distressed or blown or whatever, bulging. But I like it. So it's still got its original power connector, Japanese made, looks nicely weather beaten, but genuine. And the Transcom I had to replace, I think it was the volume, yeah, it was the volume on and off, because it's seen so much use. There was actually play in the spindle. There actually is a little bit in that squelch, but that might just be the nut has come loose behind the faceplate. Yeah, I think the nuts have come loose in the faceplate, because RF gain has got a little bit of play, and that's not a control that sees a lot of use. But there we go. I think this is just going to be a clean and a peek and tweak. So yeah, pretty pleased with that purchase. Right, let's crack on. I am brimming with confidence with this radio, so I will be doing a little bit of a clean up first. Not a restoration, I like the radios to look used, but I will do a sort of clean up of the board with some IPA. That's not Indian Pale Ale, that's IPA as in isopropyl alcohol. So there we go, and I will clean up those contacts, those potentiometers, controls, with some service oil as well. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to whip the front off because I'm going to see if I can tighten up those nuts a little bit. Pretty sure that's what it is, not spindle wear. So I'll crack on and do that. Get it all as I want it. The other thing that's always worth checking is the nut on the actual antenna connector. So many times I've seen these work loose and then they break away inside, and then sometimes you see where people have repaired it and they've stretched these trap coils as well, so you can see that there's been some disturbance, especially if the whole thing's been twisting around. Some of them are notched so they won't actually twist, but if they come loose you've got a bad ground connection for your antenna from the get-go. Now for reference, if you've got one of those missing, it's a crap mod where people think they're going to squeeze a bit of extra power out of their Amstrads, etc. Any radio with this type of board, quite often you see just those two wires twisted together to eliminate that ballast resistor. Not a good idea, just overheats and things don't last very long. But if yours is missing, it is a 3.3 ohm resistor, so that's what lives in there. So yeah, it looks like it's never been disturbed. In the transmit line there's looks like undisturbed wax there. Actually, it's very clean inside, very pleased. So anyway, I'm going to crack on with those couple of jobs that I've detailed already, and then I'll get it over onto the test kit just to make sure it's there or thereabouts. So here we are, the Mustang GB2000 is complete. Cosmetically nothing fantastic, but as I said before, it tells a tale. So really didn't need that much doing to it, but I really can suggest that it was probably ditched, probably went out of use because of two things. One was the receive would have been a little bit off, judging by the amount of extra I gained when I tuned up the FM detector, and also it was rather low on deviation, so it would have sounded rather quiet with its transmitted audio. So there we go. A couple of reservations. I had to make a compromise with the meter. So in use I will see if it's too lazy too happy or just about right, and also with the squelch as well. So it's my radio, so I can always just whip it apart and make some minor adjustments. But apart from that, I think it's a very good, honest radio. And I didn't bother to go through the transmit line because I was pretty happy. On a cold radio, it's doing about 3.9 stroke 4 watts. Now it's warmed up about 3.7, 3.8. So happy with that. Roger beat works. Everything works as it should. So all that's left to do is to queue it up with the other radios I have until the day it gets its chance to shine out on one of the nets. Howdo! Welcome to the dining table project bench. So this time, in response to a comment actually, I bought in this. Very similar project to the little voltmeter I did. And I'm not going to show you the whole construction because it's very similar to the last one. So refer back to the voltmeter project in one of my previous shows for that. But this time it's actually volts and amps. It will show the voltage of the power supply and how much current is being drawn from it. So a little bit more in the way of connections to be done, because obviously it's a dual meter. Now the voltmeter part of it goes across the circuit because it's measuring the potential difference, the voltage, whereas the ammeter side of it goes in series with the load. So that's going to be that because it's a little bit thicker. Now this one here will read up to 10 amps, okay? I'll put some links in. I'll also cut in a couple of stills of the connection diagrams as well, because there's a couple of different types of ways of doing it. But this one would be okay for me up to 10 amps. When you go over 10 amps, the kit comes with what they call a shunt, which in simple terms is just a way of diverting some of the current so you don't end up putting, say, 50 amps through something like this. If you put 50 amps through something like this, it would sizzle and melt. But this one here is good for they say 10 amps, and looking at those wires, that would be about right. So I'm going to crack on with that. I'm not too sure if it will fit in that same type of project box as before. I've raided the kitchen. Now if you want to make a proper job, you can get proper professional polycarbonate boxes and things like that. But I raided the kitchen and I found this little box here that I may use. It's all pound shop stuff, and it was a 3-pack of containers, look, probably for £1, and ideal really. And you can even use these for outdoor projects because they do have the little seal around it as well. So there we go, something like that will do. You don't have to go. This is a little I don't know, little pepper pot seasoning container or something like that. So there we go. Anyway, I'm going to crack on with that. So I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I will cut in a couple of stills of the connection diagrams and show you how it turns out. very untidy workbench, but that's always the way it is with me. Anyway, before I put it together, I'll show you the, I'll actually cut into proper colour stills of this. I've only got a black and white printer here. But what we've got is, there's the fusible link for the ammeter side, which takes full load current. So any wires associated with that side of it have to be capable of taking the full load current of your power supply or radio, and fused accordingly. And then this here is the live supply with a 50 milliamp fuse. So this one's fused at 10 amps, the same rating as the ammeter is capable of, and this one's fused at 50 milliamps because that's actually on the voltmeter supply. Because the voltmeter is picking up its supply from the neutral of the ammeter side of things, I don't need to use that wire, or I don't need to take these wires through separately. I can join the yellow and red together at that point, but you'll see that on the drawing. Anyway, I'm going to tidy that up a bit and put it back together, and we'll finish it off and see if it works. Okay, we are done. Time wise, it took me 1 3/4 beers, so not too bad. And all right, the actual case itself is not that great actually, but it's what I had available in the kitchen. I'm not back at the shed in the proper workshop, so all of this is just stuff that I had lying around right here. So what we got, so it's gone together okay. I'm going to add some labels to it now and test it out. So what we've got is that circuit, and if you've not seen it already, I'll cut in the proper colour drawing so you can pause it and have a proper look. So that wire there from the plus of the power supply, okay, that is that brown wire there, which needn't be so thick because that's basically a supply for the voltmeter side of things. That's the voltmeter in, and I've got that fused down at 50 milliamps internally in this box on that white fuse holder there, 50 milliamps to protect that side of things. And then I've got the neutral, which is a much thicker cable capable of taking at least the rated load that we're talking about, 10 amps. So that thick black cable there will go directly to the power supply, which is that one there, okay. And then the last wire is that red one that goes to that connector there, that 15 amp connector, and that's going to be that wire there, okay. And then those two wires, as you've seen there, are joined up inside that as well. So we've got those 3 wires there. So I'll add a few labels and things, and we'll get it tested. Where the cables enter the box, I've got a little sleeve, little rubber grommet there to just protect from chafing, and there's a cable tie each side to stop it pulling through. So there we go. It's not fantastic, but for a dining room table job, it should do the job. And right, let's get some kit out and test it. Righto, we're connected up. I'm ready to test. So I've added a couple of labels and things where the wires go on the back. Then what I'll do as well, I'll shrink that down or something like that and fold the instructions up and leave them inside the box for future use either by myself or others. Anyway, so that's exactly how we've connected it up as per that drawing. So as I say many times in this video before, I've included fusible links in here, 50 milliamps, and here 10 amps, so we don't exceed the rating of the meter. So I say this is up to 10 amps maximum, okay. Any more than that, you'll have to get the version that includes the shunt. All right. Anyway, we have the Maplin power supply. That's 7 amps continuous, 10 amps 50% duty cycle, 12 amp surge, and the Anytone AT5555. Now I did some testing on that a few weeks ago, and I'm expecting it to peak out under 8 amps, so it should be okay for this power supply. It'll go over its continuous rating slightly, but it should be okay for testing purposes. Right, I'm going to dim the lights down then, and we'll see if this thing actually works. Okay, let's fire it up. Quite often the camera doesn't like that sort of blue display in particular, so I'll have to dictate it as it happens. Okay, so we're showing 13.5 toggling 13.6 under no load, so let's compare that with the actual voltage. Don't forget the voltage being measured, that's actually at the terminals of the power supply. To be honest, I don't expect this is all that accurate, so I seem to remember it was about 13.8 under no load, this one. Yeah, about 13.8. So I don't know, this might be a little bit happy, this might be a little bit sad, but 13.5, that's within 0.3 of a volt, so that's pretty good. Okay, let's fire up the Anytone. It's transmitting into a dummy load, by the way, and we're on FM. Okay, on receive, with no audio coming out of the radio, we're running about 240, 250 milliamps, about a quarter of an amp. Okay, RF power is at a minimum, so key up is taking us up to 1.54 amps. So let's increase the power. Now, this was doing about 36 watts, I think, on FM when I tested it a few weeks ago. We're now up to 3 amps. The regulation is holding well so far on the PSU. We're now to 4 amps. Everything holding. I can hear that power supply really working. 5 amps. 6 amps. Just starting to lose a little bit of voltage there from the power supply as we hit its maximum continuous rating. So that's 7 amps. Still holding though, it's recovered 13.5. This is a tidy power supply. It does what it says on the tin. Right, I'll just do that burst up now. It'll go past its continuous rating and it will be eating into its duty cycle rating. So let's whack that up and see what it reads. Here we go. That's maximum. So we're showing 7.65, toggling 7.64 amps on the maximum. Fair play to the PSU, holding at 13.4, so we're about 7.7 amps. Okay, so I think that's pretty handy. Might not be the most accurate thing in the world, but for a real-time method of monitoring what's happening at your power supply, I think that's pretty damn good. Righto, channel 30 on a Saturday night. The Saturday Night Net has restarted, so I shall be calling in hopefully shortly for a quick hello to the guys on there. So it's back on, and it's on channel 30 from 9 PM until 11 PM every Saturday night. And there's a couple of strong stations over in Wales pretty much every single week. Nice friendly crowd, so please give them a shout if you possibly can. So there are nice high ground stations as well, so they've got good ears. So there we go, channel 30 on the UK FM. I'm going to be calling in with the Mark II Crapsman that was a feature of one of my CB radio show episodes a few weeks ago. So we'll give that an airing. Okay, catch you in a moment.
Yeah, copied on that, Alan. Yeah, Gary, Alan reports 2 by 2 to Minehead.
Yeah, Roger. It was only about 15 miles away, but the terrain between me and Alan would be absolutely horrendous. So it's really, from this location, it's across the water type contacts for me there, Ian. Hence you're lighting up all the fairy lights on this old Amstrad, and everyone nearby to me is down in the noise there, Ian. Back to you.
Yeah, copied on that, Gary. QSK station, we will come back to you. I'm just working another QSK station that called in, so if you bear with us, we will come back to you. Brian, Winner 8, any copy on Gary?
I can never fail to hear Gary, so come on, Gary.
Yeah, it's getting a regular occurrence now there, Brian. So we went to 12 months with no copy, and now it's 2 in a couple of days, so that can't be bad. Yeah, I got on about, it's a little bit of surface noise this way. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just built up sort of area, but it's lighting up through the lights on the old 901 there, Brian. Back to you.
Yeah, 505 back in there, Gary. Not in the best spot for you, but here we are. No problem with it. with the audio and everything, so no problem.
Many thanks. 113, any copy on Gary?
Certainly do. Gary, 104. Alan, 113 trying.
Yeah, that's better. Although I could hear you last Wednesday, but yeah, £7 Radio 5 into me there, Alan, back to you.
Yes, same report back to you, Gary, and yeah, nice to hear you finally out on the radio.
Yeah, 73, Brian. This is Charlie Tango 252, now going clear. Good night, guys.
Cheers, Ian. 1010, 104 clear. So there we go, folks. That's pretty much it for another episode. And yeah, what can I say? Very enjoyable time spent on the nets this week, and successful first sort of proper outing for the Crapsman 2. You may have noticed it was only lighting up 3 lights on transmit. That's because I was running it off the tracer battery, which puts out 12 point something volts, not the full 13.8. So that's why that was like that. But so there we go. Unveiled now is the Mustang up there, so that will get a chance on a net sometime in the future. But I have to say, I seem to have quite a bit of success with that type of chassis, and the Cybernet chassis in general. They do seem to be very resilient, and there's a lot of good working radios out there that sometimes just need a little bit of a tweak and a peak to get them back on song, whereas other radios, I don't know, I've had a few DNT M40s pass through my hands over the years, and I've yet to get one that works properly, or in fact at all, to this day, which is a shame, because I've got a lot of time still for the actual styling of the DNT M40 and the B40, the base station version. I've still got a lot of time for that, because that was the first radio pretty much that I ordered a JWR version. It's called the M1, and it never made it into production, but I put a pre-order in for it because I just like the styling. I still like the styling to this day, but it never went into production. I had the deposit returned. I didn't want their M2. I had the deposit returned for the M1, and I went out and bought the York 863. A better radio, most people would say, but I still got some time for that styling. It attracted me then, and it still attracts me to this day. So maybe one day I'll come across an M40 that actually works. And another problem with those, I think quite a lot of them have been converted to it's either 10 or 12 meters, which is a disaster. So there we go. Anyway, on top of that, I did actually have another reason to put a shout out for the 390 Wagon Master. It was this guy that gave me the idea to run the SDR as a spectrum analyzer. So there we go. Anyway, net action. It's been great to see the nets restart. The FM nets in particular do need as much participation as possible. Certainly we've lost a few FM nets. I'm pretty sure the Sunday DX on channel 34 UK FM, Sid's Sunday DX, I believe that has restarted, but I couldn't hear anything coming in from, so my coverage is pretty much over to Wales and the Midlands. I couldn't hear anything coming in today. That's not to say it's not running, but I'm still awaiting more confirmation on how that one is going. But there we go. But certainly I can understand why in this day and age there's a lot of home base stations really struggling with noise. I got a little bit coming in here now, as well as back at the shed. I've got some noise coming in there. So if I'm getting it in places like this, whereas before I had a very low noise floor, then I can only imagine the suffering of some of these home base stations, and I can certainly see the reason why some of them are starting to run heat, i.e. amplifiers, burners, boots, call them what you will. But certainly if you are thinking about going down that route, run the minimum amount that you need to get over the noise to your mates, and also keep the stations clean, put the filters in line. I have been told that one of the harmonics, I'll have to check, one of the harmonics from CB 27 megahertz lands in the aircraft band. You certainly don't want to be running a harmonic from a radio that's a little bit out of tune, a little bit out of spec, through an amplifier, and then that's amplifying a fair few watts out on the aircraft band, and that's certainly something that's subject to me double checking that, but that's what I've been told. So if you do things like that, then you don't really want to do it anyway. Anybody sensible would want to keep their stations clean, but certainly you will attract attention from the authorities if you start putting out a signal in places that you shouldn't be. So they will soon triangulate, and they will soon find you. So keep your stations clean. Some people I've seen in the past, they want to drive their amplifiers with as many watts as they can. I've known people put extra voltage in it just to get extra. Just think of it like a car or anything like that. If you're running it balls out, it's going to get ragged, and it's likely not to last very long anyway. Just keep everything sensible. Somebody said, there's a debate that I started with one of my previous episodes with the low pass filters, where to place them in line if you're running an amplifier. Some people say radio, low pass filter, amp, antenna. Other people say radio, amp, low pass filter, antenna. So the theory behind the first one is you're cleaning the thing up and you're sending something clean into the amplifier. The second theory is you're catching anything that comes out the amplifier that's dirty. Now what somebody suggested, and it sounded a pretty good idea to me, is radio, filter, amplifier, but make sure that you underdrive, you really run that amplifier relaxed. And they said run at half rated input. So if you've got an amp that will take 10 watts in, run it at 5 watts in. That's it. So that sounded pretty fair advice. And of course you can always run filter before and after your amplifier just to make sure. But certainly worth putting something like that in, and avoid any potential problems. So there we go. Anyway, that's between these people and their makers really, but I can certainly understand why people are running extra watts in order to get over the noise in this incredibly electrically noisy environment that we find ourselves in today. Same with PMR 446. I can understand why people are sort of not using things like this anymore and using other types of radio, but certainly again, don't take the piss. I've heard sideband on PMR 446. A lot of people it's a narrow FM band. People are running wide FM, and it's pretty obvious when you listen to them that's what they're doing, and they're not using type-approved equipment. So a lot of people would say, who cares, that the authorities don't care, etc. But that's at this present time. You never know, something might change in the future and things might get a little bit more strict. So I would say if you are going to go down some sort of illicit route, keep it as sweet and as clean as you possibly can. Anyway, there we go. On that note, I will wish you all the best, and hopefully catch you on one of my CB Radio Show specials, as I did with the T2LT rebuild video. Check that one out if you possibly can, or indeed episode 6. Cheers and beers all. 104, check it out.